Hello and welcome to episode 26, I believe, of Dunk's Movie Corner or Dunk's Movie Corner podcast, pod, whatever you want to call it. Uh, if you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. If you just kind of stumbled upon this, well, don't stumble away. This is a quick little recap of what I watched in roughly a week. It might be in movie, it might be TV, it might be limited series. My quick thoughts on each, and then I'll move to the next. This is, if you are new, this is just kind of a companion podcast to the Movie Bros, which is a longer format where me and my brother Hayden pick one movie, watch that movie, discuss, and kind of break it down and ramble and banter about it, which I find much more interesting than just me talking into the ether by myself. So if you are looking for something more of a discussion, I'd say check that out. That is posted weekly, as is this podcast. But without further ado, if just in case I don't say it at the end and forget, you can find this podcast as well as the Movie Bros on Instagram, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. And with that, let's just kind of get into it. It's going to be a little bit shorter of an episode comparatively to, I think, last week, which last week I watched, or whatever you want to consider a week. Last time I recorded this, which was at this point like 10 days ago or something like that, I had watched a lot of movies. I have not watched as many movies this week. So I started the week, I don't even know what day this was, but with watching Now You See Me, the 2013 heist magician action-y thriller. It's kind of a odd concept. I did find it incredibly surface level. What you're seeing is exactly what you're getting. There's not a lot of deep plot to this. You can guess the plot in the first 10 minutes, even though the whole thing is uh about magicians and sleight of hand and like not really seeing what's going on. It's pretty straightforward. Is it fun? Sure. I would give it probably a 3, if I'm generous, 3.5 out of 5, including half stars. Would I recommend it? I wouldn't go out of my way to tell people to watch it, but I also would not be like, oh, don't watch it, it sucks, if someone says they want to watch it. So that's how I started my week. From there, I went back in time to 2002 and rewatched The Count of Monte Cristo. If you haven't seen this, I would recommend it. This is a tale of revenge, of uh, dueling and disguises and pirates and God to a certain degree. The cast is very, very good. It's Guy Pearce being classic hateable Guy Pearce. Uh, it's super young Henry Cavill when he's like 16. There's you'd recognize like 4 or 5 people in it. The guy who played the original Dumbledore is in this for a little bit. Yeah, I've seen this several times before. I hadn't seen it in years and years. So again, if you haven't seen this, The Count of Monte Cristo, it's been remade. I don't even know if this is the original version. It's based off a book, but would really, really recommend. A very solid 4 out of 5. No, not perhaps a perfect movie, but a very good movie. From there, I jumped back ahead to 2014, so still not current. Not watching anything, in theaters right now, because there's not a lot of stuff that I want to see in theaters, if I'm honest. So that'll change, I'm sure, in the coming months when we're out of the hellscape of January, February, when all the shitty movies get dumped in the theaters. But that's another topic for discussion. So I rewatched from 2014 Pawn Sacrifice. This is Tobey Maguire as Bobby Fischer. If you're anything of a historian, this was a very famous chess grandmaster from the United States during the Cold War, where he was, a prodigy at a very young age, but also had some mental problems. And it's him, dealing with those problems, but also like on his path to facing the Russians in chess. So some of this has been dramatic. It's a little bit more dramatic and theatrical than what actually happened, but this stuff did happen. Um, so if you're curious, I like chess. I don't know. I've always thought it's been really interesting, and generally speaking, I like Tobey Maguire. Yes, I have a soft spot because he was, my Spider-Man in like 2003 or whatever it was. But is it amazing? No. Is it? It's pretty good. Like three and a half. Like, it's a little bit more of a slow mover. Because again, it's a chess movie. There's not a lot of action scenes. Does Bobby Fischer have some problems? Yes, he definitely has some paranoia problems. So if you're ever curious, I'd say check that out. If you watched something like The Queen's Gambit, it's I wouldn't say very similar, but I mean, it's chess stuff. And I feel like anyone who's very good at chess might have some other baggage along the way, which if you've seen Queen's Gambit or this, you'll know that's accurate. From there, I jumped back to 2000, and I think I would consider this a rewatch, but I don't honestly remember almost anything from it at all. This was The Emperor's New Groove. This is the early animation of like this, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, the Road to El Dorado, and Titan AE. There's only like 4 or 5. Oh, and Treasure Planet. There's only like 4 or 5 movies that all kind of came out around the same time, had the same kind of animation, were really really fun. But then the industry and everything just changed to go to a different direction, and they didn't really make anything else like this. So it's very much like a snapshot in time. Is this my favorite of the bunch? No. Are there lots of fun bits in it? Absolutely. I watched this because Hayden and I, my brother, we are going to be watching this for one of our Movie Bros episodes. So if you want a much more in-depth look at this movie, however much or little that might be, because it's fairly surface level. I mean, it's fun. I can clearly see there are some underlying, maybe adult themes that might make this more interesting, but this one's a little bit more just straight comedy based, whereas I feel like Atlantis, Treasure Planet, um, I haven't seen Titan AE in years. I honestly can't remember much about that one, but uh, I will say I am a die-hard Kronk fan. I feel like everyone is. Like all of his line delivery, the angel and devil on his shoulder bit, like he's fantastic. The fella who voices him, who is David Puddy from Seinfeld, he has just one of those iconic voices that I think really lends itself to animation, which I'm glad that he is not just a live action actor. He also does voiceover stuff, which is cool. I know that they made a sequel about Kronk. I don't think I'm gonna get around to watching it if I'm honest. I gave this probably a 3.5. So again, not amazing, but pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was definitely one of those like I don't think the movie's amazing, but I had a good time watching it. So, whatever category you place that into. From there, I don't know what prompted me to rewatch this because again, at some point I think in my life I saw this, but I burned it out of memory for whatever reason. The 2017 Greatest Showman. This is Hugh Jackman, Zac Efron, Zendaya. Um, those are like the main people, but there's a what's her name, the female wife of Hugh Jackman, blonde. Is that Michelle Williams? I think it's Michelle Williams. The story I found is it's kind of weak. It's kind of very straightforward. Are the musical numbers? Because again, I mean, it's a musical. The musical numbers are fun. Hugh Jackman is, I mean, the guy has talent. I feel like it's really hard to deny this at that point. From anything from acting to singing to dancing, uh, the guy knows what he's doing, and I think I feel like there are some actors and actresses that don't. I feel like earn their popularity or their fame, and I feel like he has definitely earned it. Like the guy works. He does a lot of stuff, but like it's believable. Like all the stuff that he did as Wolverine, he's been on Broad. Like he knows what he's doing. However, uh, I don't know if that's enough for this movie to be more than what it sadly, unfortunately, is. Uh, it's yeah. I like generally, I'm not opposed to musicals, but I wouldn't say this is in my top however many, I don't know. I would excuse me. I would definitely put other things above it. We were referencing musicals the other day at work, and I was like, "Oh, man, I'm a big fan of Les Miserables." I wasn't a huge fan of Moulin Rouge. I think maybe I need to come back around to it and try it again. That was Ewan McGregor. Um, I mean, if you know me outside of this, you'll know that I am a very much a fan of La La Land, even though I don't know if I'd inherently want to call that a musical. Because yes, there are musical numbers, but it doesn't feel like a musical like this did. Like this felt like, oh, this is very clearly a musical. Um, but yeah, that's a whole separate topic. And yes, do I have tickets to see La La Land in concert at Benaroya Hall in Seattle the day after Valentine's Day? Did I buy 2 tickets hoping that I'd figure out who to bring with me by then? And have I figured that out yet? No, I have not. And I've got like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, something like that. So we'll see. Maybe I'll go with someone. Maybe I'll go alone. Either way, it's uh, if and when I rewatch La La Land again, because again I've seen that many times, I'll talk about it more on this podcast. But I feel like I don't want to distract from the actual movies I did watch this week. Sorry for the side ramble. Ooh, Rebecca Ferguson is the like opera-y singer that Hugh Jackman. I mean, I feel like this has been out long enough where I can say spoilers, but Hugh Jackman kind of abandons his circus of freaks that he like nurtures to go be in the spotlight with her, and of course she falls for him. But then he's like, "Oh, I have a wife and kids." Um, dude, she is. I mean, surprise. I don't know if it's. I don't really know if it's her actually singing, but it's beautiful. She's beautiful. Uh, yeah, she's great. I mean, she's done Mission Impossible stuff. She did this. She's done. What else has she done? I feel like she has done a ton of things. Of course, I am blanking. Let's see now. Oh, of course, she did Dune. Dune, she's fantastic in. I watched The Girl on the Train at some point. I remember that being very good. What else? She's going to be in the Peaky Blinders movie. Because again, the show is fantastic, but I'm curious how they're going to fit her into this. She hasn't done a ton of stuff, but basically everything I've seen her in, she's very good acting wise. Um, so yes, that was The Greatest Showman. I'd probably give that again, probably like a 3 out of 5. Not bad, not great, not my favorite musical, not the worst one I've ever seen. So that was 2017, and I guess ended my week, however you want to word this, because again, my weeks are kind of blurring together with Lincoln. Originally, this is from 2012. This is from 2012. Originally, Hayden and I were going to do this and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer for uh, Inauguration Day, because I think that'd be a fun duo, but we just ran out of time. And yeah, so on a side note, Hayden and I have now sat down and planned out every week what we're gonna watch, record, and post for the next like 4 months. I like to, I'm very much I've become very much a planner. I like to-do lists. I like my color coded calendars, and this will help me. And I'm hoping it'll help Hayden. So just both of us be on the same track. So we won't, have the excuse of, oh, we ran out of time or we missed something. But before we decided to not do this for that month, I had already watched Lincoln. So we didn't get around to watching Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, but Lincoln, which I get why it's good. Like, I get why Daniel Day-Lewis won an Oscar for his portrayal of Abraham Lincoln. I get that it's Spielberg directing. I get that you can look and there's probably 25 very like prominent good actors in it, but boy is this, I mean, again, it's an important story, and I see the value of it, but it is one of the most boring, slow moving movies I have maybe ever seen. Like, again, I get it, but I will probably never rewatch this ever. Am I glad I guess I'm glad that I at least understand why it was made and why people won awards for it, but yeah, not interested in going back to that. That's all I watched this week in movies. Again, much lighter this week compared to last week. I will say I should probably supplement this with the fact that I had recently paid for a limited run of Amazon Prime, and with Amazon Prime, for some reason, I don't know why I stumbled upon this again, even though it's been years and years since I watched it. I've been watching these sort of limited series, sort of just regular series, even though I think they stopped after 3, um, of Hannibal. If you've never heard, this is about Hannibal Lecter, basically from the book to Silence of the Lambs, and then this is a show with Mad Mikkelsen as Hannibal Lecter consulting on FBI cases with Lawrence Fishburne and Hugh Dancy, I think is his name. It's excellent. If you like true crimey stuff, this is fairly close. I will say, whatever service it originally aired on, because it's not an Amazon Prime original, I believe it was like Showtime or something like that. It's adult. It is very adult, and it's all about serial killers, and they show a lot of pretty gruesome stuff. But it's never overly grotesque for the sake of being grotesque, and all of the, I mean, visually, it's really well shot. I find the cinematography, the staging of everything, the lighting, costuming is good. Um, yeah, I've again, each episode is like 40 minutes, and there's 3 seasons. Each season has like 12 episode. I just finished season 2. I'm on season 3, so every day I'm watching 1 episode of that. So that's why maybe I'm watching less movies, because I am, watching that instead of, watching an hour of a movie while I'm making lunch. I'm watching an episode of Hannibal while I make lunch, or whatever it is. So maybe that's why the numbers are slightly different. Either way, if any of the movies I just rambled off about are interesting to you, I'd say check those out. Most things are on some sort of streaming app, or you can find most things either free from your local library branch and or incredibly cheap if you happen to discover them on a local thrift store like a Goodwill or a Value Village or something like that, or a Half Price Books. Someone recently recommended, you can actually find a lot of good cheap movies if you just look there, and it's surprisingly worked out pretty well, so props to them. Um, and if there's anything that, because of what I listed or talked about, you're like, oh, you should watch this, or you should not be watching, or I have strong opinions about this movie or something like that, let me know. Otherwise, that was episode, I believe, 26 of Dunk's Movie Corner Pod. And I'd say check out, I think the next movie will be Emperor's New Groove for Movie Bros. That'll be on Sunday. Hopefully you'll see another episode of this somewhere around Monday is usually what I aim for. I know it's technically Wednesday now, but, well, what are you going to do? And with that, I'll see everyone next week.